Hi, this is Annika.
And this is Deshawn, and today we're going to be discussing the US versus Germany, also known as the System Smackdown.
The case we'll be discussing today that happened in Germany was a case where a German teenager stabbed a 6-year-old to death. So the teenager was 14 at the time, and he and the victim knew each other prior to the murder. And his age is especially relevant in Germany because once you're 14, you're considered criminally responsible and can be taken to trial. In the evening of September 14th last year, the victim, Joel, was found still alive with heavy stab wounds. Later that night, he died in the hospital. The teenager was the last person who saw Joel alive on September 14th. So according to the article published by Deutsche Welle, the teenager was reported to the German police shortly after the crime, and they searched his house but couldn't find the murder weapon, so the allegations against him wouldn't be substantiated, and he wasn't arrested until 2 weeks later once he was linked to the murder weapon after it had been discovered in the search. German criminal proceedings are divided by 3 stages: investigation, intermediate proceedings, and main proceedings or trial. Investigation begins when you're suspected of a criminal offense to establish if the suspicion against you is justified. Next, the court assesses the charge, deciding if the prosecution should proceed or not. The main proceeding is where the court conducts the trial. They test the charge at an oral hearing on the basis of the evidence available, like witnesses and documents. The defendant will be given the opportunity to tell the court their versions of events and to comment on their allegations. If they're found guilty to have committed the offense, they will be convicted, and if not, they will be acquitted, and they can appeal against a judgment within certain time limits. In the juvenile justice system in Germany, children 13 and under cannot be criminally prosecuted. No one under 18 can be tried as an adult, and in Germany, when police identify a juvenile person as a suspect in a crime, a social worker is assigned for the rest of the case. The German system, quote, treats kids like kids and young adults more like kids. In juvenile trials, judges consider the child defendant's maturity, education level, and if the crime was impulsive or peer influenced. And about 85% of the time, German youth are locked up for 2 years or less. And in Germany, the juvenile justice system takes a rehabilitative approach rather than punitive one.
Oh my God, thank you, Miss A. So now we're going to do a brief overview of the US justice system. I already know we all have a general idea of what it is, so I won't make this section very long. So let's just go over 4 key aspects to our US justice system. The first main aspect is the transition of which you will be processed, which we have your law enforcement, usually dealing with the police. Then you have our court system, which is usually preliminary hearings and trials. And then finally, if found guilty or in need of assistance, you are sent to a correction solution. The second aspect is our justice system runs off of innocent until proven guilty ideology. Thirdly, our laws are split between state laws and federal laws. And then finally, how all criminal hearings start at the preliminary level and then will escalate further if necessary based off of the circumstances of a case. Now, the reason we did a general overview of the US justice system is because this next portion is a bit more in the theory realm, and we will more so talk about it in the key differences section. But I just wanted to do a general discussion of how this case could have been handled had it been put in the US's hands. See, here in the United States, he would have been held in a juvenile detention center until his preliminary hearing, even though we have an innocent until proven guilty ideology. Now, once he does have his preliminary hearing, because he does admit to the act and he does commit a very serious, heinous crime of murder, a prosecutor, depending on the state, from the ages 14 to 17, he could and more than likely will be transferred to an adult court. And then from there, once he's found guilty, as he was in Germany, he would be held in that detention center for juveniles until around the ages from 18 to 21, in which he will spend the rest of his sentence in an adult prison, obviously depending on the state. Now, this could lead you to believe that because of Germany's past, he could receive a capital punishment, but thankfully, they don't believe in the capital punishment in Germany. After 1949 signing, they abolished it altogether after the tragedies caused by Nazi Germany, while the US still holds on to it all the way back from 1609.
Based on what we know about our US justice system and what we learned about the Germany justice system, let's discuss the key differences of these systems and how this case was handled in comparison to the US standard. The teenager was charged with murder at the age of 15, but is only being tried and sentenced as a juvenile, whereas in the US, they would have been transferred to adult court, something that isn't allowed in Germany whatsoever. There were no juries in Germany, where the judge decides on a verdict along with two lay assessors, or people who don't practice law but have insight on the case, such as a doctor or psychologist. Also, the US would have had him with a trial of a jury of his peers.
Other key differences this case would have differed from is the sentencing. See, in the US, he would have served no less than 25 years, and at its highest could have gotten life without parole, no questions asked. Whereas in Germany, he only is serving 7 years when the highest he was offered was 10 years old. And that's also due to the fact that he still is considered a minor, whereas in the US, he would have been transferred to adult court and been considered an adult despite being a minor committing this crime. This goes to show how we don't properly treat juveniles in our system as juveniles. Which leads into another key difference between Germany and the US, which is the fact that Germany offers social workers to our juveniles once they are detained, whereas in the US, you're not offered anything in that regards. Which kind of explains the final aspect of our presentation, which is how you see how there's 2,698 juveniles incarcerated in Germany, while the US has approximately 60,000. And this is due to the fact that we don't treat our juveniles as juveniles, and we always want to consider them as criminals. We have to really look at Germany's system, despite it being technically a smaller country in comparison to us, to really assess and get proper benefits and proper assistance to our juvenile delinquents. Thank you so much, and you guys have a wonderful day.